Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. I want you to go ahead and grab your keys, or just picture them in your head. Take a really good look. It seems like just an everyday, ordinary tool, right? Just a jagged little piece of metal clinking around in your pocket. But today, we're going to go on a completely fascinating journey together. We're going to see how this seemingly mundane object is actually a profound guardian of human secrets. Let's get right into it. So, I want to kick things off by asking you a rather terrifying question. What if you couldn't lock anything? Imagine waking up tomorrow morning completely unsure of who might just wander through your front door. Imagine having to literally carry all of your valuables, your most precious belongings, with you everywhere you go simply because you couldn't secure them at home. I mean, it sounds exhausting and incredibly stressful, doesn't it? That fundamental feeling of safety, of having a guaranteed boundary between you and the rest of the world, is entirely thanks to the key.
To really put this into perspective, look at how far we've actually come. Today, your personal guardian is practically invisible. Maybe it's a tiny digital code on your smartphone, or literally just the unique fingerprint on your own hand. But 4,000 years ago, people literally carried massive, clunky wooden logs over their shoulders just to lock their doors. Yes, a giant piece of wood. And the wild thing is, back then, they thought these massive logs were state-of-the-art and completely uncopyable.
All right, let's dive into our first section, the first locks in history, and how folks handled security in ancient times.
Okay, so the crucial point here is how this technology leaped forward. About 4,000 years ago, in ancient Egypt, engineers invented the first large wooden locks. These devices used heavy wooden pins, and the key, well, it was essentially a giant wooden tool you had to lug around on your shoulder. It was heavy and it was a lot of hard work. But fast forward 2,000 years, and the ancient Romans completely revolutionized the concept. They took that giant wooden log and they shrunk it down, developing the very first portable, pocket-sized metal keys. You could finally take your security on the go, tuck it right in your tunic without breaking your back.
You know, what's super interesting about the social context here is that in these ancient times, the key was strictly business. Early keys were purely functional security tools. They hadn't yet taken on any deep philosophical meaning, and they absolutely weren't used to show off how important you were. It was just a highly practical, straightforward way to keep your grain, your belongings, or your gold safe from intruders. Moving on to our next section. The key as a symbol of power and trust during the Dark Age transition. So there's this fascinating duality to the Middle Ages. On one hand, you have the elite. Royalty started using keys made of solid gold to give as diplomatic gifts to ambassadors and nobles. The church forged these giant ornate keys to display divine and political power. Basically, the key became the ultimate status symbol. But on the exact opposite side of things, this era also birthed the professional lockpicker. As keys got fancier and locks got more complex, a massive cat-and-mouse arms race completely exploded between lockmakers and professional thieves. Every single time a new lock was invented for the elite, it was really just a new puzzle for criminals to solve. And this perfectly illustrates the massive cultural shift during this time, the famous historical ceremony of handing over the keys to the city. I'm sure you've heard this phrase used even today. Well, in the Middle Ages, giving someone the literal physical keys to the city gates became the ultimate symbol. If you handed those keys over willingly to a visiting diplomat, it was a gesture of profound trust and deep honor. But if an invading army stood at your gates and you were forced to hand them over, it meant complete and total surrender. The key was no longer just about a wooden door. It was about political dominance and trust. All right, bringing us to the 19th and 20th centuries, the Industrial Revolution and the modern lock. We are talking about the democratization of security. Let's walk through exactly how this massive shift happened, step by step. Step 1. A brilliantly inventive man named Linus Yale comes along and invents the modern pin tumbler lock. This was a stroke of absolute genius. In fact, it's the exact same lock mechanism most of us still use on our front doors today. Step 2. The Industrial Revolution kicks into high gear, and factories begin mass-producing these small, jagged, toothed keys by the millions. Which leads us to the absolute game changer, Step 3. Security suddenly becomes affordable for absolutely everyone. Because of mass production, everyday people no longer needed to hire human guards or live on wealthy estates just to protect their homes.
So, the real takeaway here is this massive paradigm shift. Before the 19th century, A highly secure lock was an exclusive luxury item, strictly for the wealthy elite. But after the 19th century, it became a universal, everyday tool for the masses. The Industrial Revolution literally democratized security. It took the key from being a golden status symbol for kings and turned it into something every single person carried in their own pocket. Everyone suddenly had the right to privacy and safety.
Which brings us right into today, the key in the digital age and the modern security challenges we face.
I mean, just look at the incredible, fragmented ways we lock things today. We've got digital keys stored directly on our mobile phones, we swipe magnetic cards to get into our hotel rooms, we use fingerprint biometric locks on our laptops, and we literally stare into facial recognition scanners just to access our bank accounts. It is absolutely wild to think about how far we've evolved from an Egyptian carrying a giant piece of wood on his back, isn't it? The key has in many ways become completely invisible.
But, okay, I want to share this really surprising fact with you. Despite all of these major digital advancements, traditional metal keys are still widely used in most homes around the world. Even with biometrics, Bluetooth, and smart home systems, humanity just can't seem to let go of that traditional jagged metal key. There is just a deeply ingrained, almost psychological comfort in holding the physical, tangible key to your sanctuary right in your own hand. However, here's the catch. Holding on to our security in the modern age comes with a whole new set of massive headaches. Our traditional threats used to be lockpicking or someone physically breaking down a door. You could literally see the threat. But modern threats, they are entirely invisible. Today, we're dealing with digital hacking, remote network access, and massive privacy breaches. Modern security engineers aren't just fighting lockpicks in a dark alley anymore. They are constantly trying to build impenetrable digital walls to protect against hackers who might be sitting thousands of miles away behind a keyboard.
Let's wrap this up with our final section, the silent teacher of history, a deep conclusion.
When you really think about it, the key isn't just a physical tool. It's a silent, historical teacher that showed humanity how to protect our belongings, how to trust others, and how to guarantee privacy. Think about that for a second. This simple piece of metal, or wood, or code, is literally what taught human beings how to establish personal boundaries. It taught us the mechanics of trust. Without the key, the very concept of a private, secure life simply wouldn't exist.
Let's just quickly recap this massive technological journey we've been on. 4,000 years ago, our security was heavy wood. 2,000 years ago, we refined it down to metal. Just 20 years ago, we shifted to invisible digital code. And today, the key is you. It's your own biometric data. The evolution of the key is, quite literally, the evolution of human engineering and human society itself.
And this brings me to an incredibly powerful quote from our source material today that I think just perfectly summarizes everything we've talked about. The value of a thing is not in its appearance, but in the feeling of security it gives. Whether it's a giant golden master key from a medieval king, a cheap brass house key, or an invisible Bluetooth signal from your smartphone, the key's true worth has absolutely nothing to do with what it looks like. Its true worth is the absolute peace of mind it grants us when we close our doors at night.
So I'm going to conclude our explainer today with a final, provocative thought to leave you pondering. Next time you turn a key, what history are you unlocking? Tomorrow morning, when you put your hand in your pocket and turn that little piece of metal in your front door, I want you to remember this explainer. You are not just turning a lock, you're participating in a 4,000-year-old tradition of human trust, power, and incredible ingenuity. History is hidden in the smallest details of our everyday lives. Thank you so much for joining me today. Keep asking questions, keep exploring, and until next time, take care and guard your secrets well.